Express 98.3 FM. Windy Morning Express 98.3 FM.
Welcome to Monday. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to Monday morning.
Windy Morning Express 98.3 FM.
Okay, so we're good to go right here, 98.3 FM. Just a couple of minutes past the early on publicized time, and for sure, remember, to God be the glory. With arms stretched up into the heavens, we say, it is a day our dear God Almighty has granted. We will rejoice and be glad in it. So this is how we start a whole new week right here on the Ultimate in Campus Radio and transmitting live here from the Ultra Modern Student Center, North Campus, belonging to our very beloved University of Education. WINNEBA happens to be your network, the Ultimate in Campus Radio 98.3 FM. Today happens to be Monday, July 25, which happens to be the 206th day of the year according to the Gregorian calendar. So 159 days more to Brexit for this very year. And in tandem with management directive, and not to forget what the academic board of our beloved EW happens to have stipulated, our flagship radio lecture series, remember, happened to have kick-started Friday. We had that opening one from our friends from the Faculty of Foreign Languages, particularly communication skills. This morning, we are starting with the Faculty of Educational Studies, and like you know, we all do it like this every Monday morning. It's about EDCR 242, Trends in Education and School Management in Ghana. And guess what? We have one of our fathers with us here in the studios to make the presentation on the topic, Features of Administration and Management. Features of Administration and Management. And it's none other than Mr. Eric OFOSU-DWAMENA from the Department of Educational Foundations, University of Education, WINNEBA. Insofar as you are level 300 students and studying the course EDCR 242, Trends in Education and School Management in Ghana, you can be rest assured of nothing but the very best from Sir Eric OFOSU-DWAMENA this very morning. However, have your studio lines in advance. Remember, later on in the course of the lecture, the studio lines will be activated for you to come through and make your contributions as well. That is 0503923158, 0503923158. And already the activated WhatsApp platform and equally serving as a path for everything SMS is 0503923158. On Facebook, the comment section would also be accepting your comment as well. That is Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. You can also do the listening live on the all-embracing homepage of our university, www.uew.edu.gh. So just after the 1 hour radio lecture, I'll be back to continue traditional programming. So without much ado, let me say a very good morning to you, Mr. Eric OFOSU-DWAMENA, and happy new season to you. Welcome back here to the studios for the start of the second semester, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Bright, and good morning to all our cherished listeners, more especially our third year students who are reading Trends in Education and School Management in Ghana, EDCR 242. Well, as you already heard for our announcement, this morning we're going to look at the features of management. Last week we all started lectures and we were taken through the introductory lecture that is about what administration is and what management is. That is the concepts. You got the concepts and your lecturers took you through what these concepts mean. So for a quick recap, I think you had knowledge concerning administration, that when we talk of administration, it simply refers to the group of individuals who are in charge of creating and enforcing rules and regulations, or those in leadership within an organization or an institution who posture and complete important tasks in an organization or an enterprise. So briefly, it was indicated that administration is the act of managing duties, responsibilities, or rules to ensure that the aims and objectives of that particular organization or that particular institution are attained. You were also taken through the concept management, where, if you remember, it was said that management is the art of work done through people with the satisfaction of the person who employed the people, to the satisfaction of the workers, and also the general public. And to do this, it is necessary to guide, direct, and control human efforts towards the fulfillment of the goal of the organization or of that particular institution or that particular enterprise. So whatever the case may be, wherever we find ourselves, much as we are into an organization, much as we are in an institution, maybe an enterprise, administration and management are very important in that they play significant functions in such groupings or in such organizations. And without management, there isn't organization. And also, without administration, there is no management. So the two, as the economists will say, are complementary. The two are complementary to each other. So, my dear listeners, the studio lines this morning, once again, the line that you can call after the presentation, either you call or you send WhatsApp, is 050 392 3158. 050 392 3158. And you still can call through 033 232 0201. Call 033 232 0201. Thank you very much. This morning, as I've said, we are looking at the features of management. And someone will say, well, characteristic features, but I think that would mean tautology of a sort. So we are talking of the features, or we're talking of the characteristics of management. As I said in the introductory part of it, every organization, no matter how big or small it might be, ought to be properly administered and managed, so that at the end of the day, that institution or that organization, that company, will be able to meet its set goals or achieve its set goals. And management is one thing that permeates every aspect of the organization, because in the organization we are working with human and material resources, and these ought to be properly handled, preventing wastage and working in a very effective and efficient manner to ensure that, yes, at the end of the day, we have been able to attain our goals. So management is very essential. At all times, management is required, and it aims at achieving the organizational objectives. This we have to take note of, in the sense that if we look at the functions and activities of a school head, the school head is placed at a point where he's supposed to lead that school to achieve its set goals. And if it is the objective of that school head to attain, let's say, 100% pass in the WASI examinations, in the WASI, it requires that the head will have to plan the course of action. He needs to plan the course of action. He ought to motivate all the teachers that are under his jurisdiction. And he will need to organize the resources at his disposal, talking about the material resources at his disposal, and keeping in mind the main targets of attaining the 100% in the WASI as it is. In order to do this, he ought to properly manage the institution. In that institution, human beings work with non-human resources. Fine, it could be materials in our case of a school, it could be books, the financial assets that the school has at its disposal, the buildings, and the lot of things that we can have on the school compound. The head ought to organize all these. And as it is, management integrates the human efforts to all the things you have mentioned, the material resources that we have, by bringing what we shall call harmony, by bringing that kind of harmony among the human, physical, and financial resources, so that work must be done to achieve the goal that the school head might have set. In our case here, he said he wants to attain 100% pass of the candidates or of the WASI examination. So he needs to mobilize all the resources to ensure that with his plan of action, he ought to ginger up the teachers, all the course areas, not being biased to say it's going to be maths and English only, but make sure that whatever courses that the school is running, the teachers are motivated. The resources that are made available, no matter how limited they might be, they ought to be put into proper use so that work will go on steadily on the school compound for his goal to be attained at the end of the day. So per this, we realize that management is goal-oriented. To manage resources, you must have a goal, and you work towards the attainment of that goal you have set, or whatever predetermined goals that you set for yourself. You make sure that you manage the resources towards the attainment of that goal. So as one of the features of management, we are saying that management is a goal-oriented process, in that whatever goal we set for ourselves, we make sure that we harmonize the human efforts and the material resources at our disposal to have a plan of action, and then we work towards the attainment of that goal. So if we are to work towards the goal, then of course the resources that we have ought to be properly handled, and every person within that school or within that organization or company ought to be involved in ensuring that we attain our goals. So we see that management is something that is universal. It is a universal phenomenon. The use of the word management is maybe in your discussions you realize that management is mostly used in the business sector. Yes, in the school situation, we're still running a business. So it is applicable in a school situation. Management is applicable in profit-making ventures, non-profit-making situations, businesses or non-business organizations. It could be used in hospitals, and it could be used in even clubhouses. So to have things in there to be properly managed. So it is something that is pervasive. So the concept of management is used in the whole world, in the sense that at any point in time, we want to attain something good for an organization, for a group, or for an association, or for a school. So management is used wherever we are, or wherever we find ourselves as human beings, where we have put ourselves into groups, where we have put ourselves into any form of organization. Management is required, because everything within that setup ought to be properly managed. So as one of the features, we're saying that management is pervasive. It runs through every activity of that particular school or that particular organization. So looking at management and the way it is entering into every aspect of human life within a school or within an organization, it doesn't mean a single activity that, oh, he is sending books to the library, so that is management. He is making sure that students come to the library and read their books, and that is management. It is not related to just a single activity. But if you critically look at management, much as it is pervasive, it actually looks at three main activities. We can talk about the management of work. We can talk about the management of people. And we can talk of management of operations. Maybe we shall have time to talk about each of these before we move on to the other features. Having identified these three activities, that is the management of work, management of people, management of operations, you realize that management is multidimensional. It is looking at how the work is handled, how people are also going to be handled, and how to handle the operations of that particular entity or organization or school. So first, if you want to look at the aspect of work, that is management of work, you bear with me that whatever organization that we find ourselves in, or wherever an organization is set up, let's say a school is set up, it is set up to perform some task or goal. Because we have already said that we manage to ensure that our goals are attained. So that organization or that school has been set up to perform some goal, attain some goal, or to perform a particular task. And the management activities aim at achieving the goals or achieving the tasks that have been predetermined or that have been set. We want that goal to be attained. We want that task to be accomplished. So the task or the work depends on the nature of the activities to be performed, the nature of the business to be done or to be run. For example, in a school situation, we want work to be accomplished in a school. And what work do we accomplish in a school? In a school, we provide education. So here, work in that school is all about providing education. We talk of management at the hospital. Yes, in a hospital, The hospital has been set up to treat patients. And if it's about industry, work in there is to manufacture some products. So in this situation, or in these situations, management makes sure that work is accomplished in a very effective and efficient manner. So work ought to be accomplished effectively and efficiently. So we talk about management of work. We're still thinking about the multi-dimensional nature of management, where we are saying that we can have at least 3 activities or 3 main activities, where we have management of work, which we have just talked about, and we still have management of people and management of operations. So we turn our attention now to management of people. People refer to human resources when we talk of organizations. We talk of a school, we talk of any group, we talk of any association. And human resources are the most important assets of any institution. Yes, you can have material resources to the highest of its quantities, but if you don't have the human resource to help churn those material resources into the finished products, all those material resources will turn out to be waste. An organization can win over its competitor if only it has efficient employees. All because 2 organizations can have the same physical, let's say technical and financial resources. We can provide 2 organizations, 2 institutions with the same material resources. Come to buildings, they are the same. Come to laboratory equipment, they are all given the same set or the same quantity of materials. But there could be a difference. The difference in here will be that of the human resources. It can happen that the set of individuals to handle the materials in school A, it could be the same set or similar set for school B, but the people within these 2 institutions can never be the same. And that is where the competition comes in. Tasks or work ought to be accomplished through the people within these 2 organizations. And if, let's say, school A is able to manage the people that have been posted in there very well, equally they are going to use the resources, talking about the material resources, in a very effective manner. And at the end of the day, they will get a very high input and will consider also having a very high output. The other school, yes, they will have the higher input because the materials have been given to the required levels. But if the people, that is the human aspect of it, is not up to the task that they have been given, they will not in any way be effective in using the resources. And at the end of the day, even though they are having the equally higher input, their output is going to be low, or is going to be less as compared with the first school. So here, if we have competitors, school A and B competing against each other, you realize that school A, their results at the end of the year is so bright. And if you look at the other side of it, the students will not come home with any flying colors, because the people that were involved in ensuring that learning is effectively done in that school could not be up to the task. And for that matter, the failure rate in the second school might be higher, whereas the first school might not record any failures at all. So we talk about the management of people. If you are able to manage the people within your institution so well, they will be able to accomplish a given task within time. And at the end of the day, whatever goal or goals that you have set to attain will be done with ease, because the people are up to the task. And managing these people, or managing people within the two dimensions, you realize that when you are giving the set of people, or you are giving your staff, you ought to take care of them. You take care of their individual needs. And management is set to ensure that the needs of the employees or the staff are properly catered for. And more so, in institutions, we usually put people into groups. We see people working as a group, not as individuals. So equally, as you take care of their individual needs, you ought to take care, you ought to manage the group of people that are also at your disposal. The third aspect is about operations. That is management of operations. Well, when we talk of operations, we are simply referring to activities of the production cycle, such as buying inputs, converting them into semi-finished goods, and finally into finished goods. Well, in our school situation, fine, we need certain inputs. Recently we may need markers, not pieces of chalk. Or if it's pieces of chalk, fine, you ought to provide them. The books that the students will use, textbooks, exercise books, writing materials, pencils, erasers, and the like. So these things ought to be utilized to help with the child's or the student's learning or the student's education. So operations ensure that all these facilities or materials are provided. So we talk about the management of operations here. And management of operations is concentrating on mixing management of work with management of people. I hope you are getting what I'm saying. We have looked at management of people, management of work, and here we're talking of management of operations. Operations has provided the needed resources, the needed materials to be used. So what is next? Management ought to ensure that they are able to help people mix the materials as they work with them. In a classroom situation, you are going to teach. How do you do the teaching? You need your educational resources or material resources or rare materials that the students will have to explore. You know your methodology. What goes into the presentation of your lesson. So you mix these, what I will call the hard skills and the soft skills, to ensure that the student is engaged, is participating in whatever is required, so that through whatever activities you are engaging the student learns from them. They learn from the activities that you engage them in. Said that another day, you'll be able to assess your lesson. In assessing your lesson, you ensure that you have been able to attain your goal. You attain your goal within the 2 hours or 1 hour presentation. Another person is also going to do the same thing the next time or the next hour. And at the end of the day, all these will culminate into one thing, ensuring that the day's goal have been attained. And this will go on gradually till at the end of, let's say, the term, or in our case, the semester, when we will assess the students to ensure that, yes, they have been able to go through whatever objectives we set for the semester or whatever activity we set for the term. And if they are to write any examination, any competitive examination, these students stand a chance of attaining very good grades as compared with the school that is not utilizing the operations, that's not utilizing the work, that's not utilizing the people in a very effective manner. So management of operation concentrates on mixing the management of work with management of people, where they decide what work ought to be done, how it has to be done, and who ought to do that work. So all these will have to come together to ensure that they work towards the attainment of the organizational or the institutional goals. So we have looked at the multi-dimensional nature of management. For a quick recap, we said that management is multi-dimensional, and there are 3 activities involved in this. That is why we assign it that feature, because in that organization or in that school, people ought to work. So the work ought to be managed. The people themselves ought to be managed. And of course, we ought to manage operations to ensure that tasks are accomplished towards the attainment of goals. We are able to identify who ought to do the work, how it ought to be done, and who will have to do it. You realize that even though we are mentioning these things, management of work, management of people, management of operations, they could be separate. But the fact is that we are not working with them in a distinct manner, in a sense that we are going to look at management of work. So this is management of work. It is done. Then we come to management of people. No. It is a continuous process. It is a never-ending function. If you look at it, the functions of management, I'm very sure it was mentioned during your lecture. If not, you surely look at it. When you look at the functions of management, it is something that is performed continuously. There's the need for planning. There's the need for organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. All these are to be performed by the school head or the manager of the school or the manager of that institution. And they ought to be performed at the same time. Many a times, when the head is planning, then staffing or organizing is also following. And it continues like that, and it moves like a cycle. As if one aspect is ending, the another one is beginning. So managers or heads of institutions, heads of organizations, perform ongoing series of functions and they do it in a very continuous manner within the organization. So we identify that also as one of the features of management, that management is a continuous process. Management is a continuous process. This is because it is a never-ending function. The head ought to ensure that as he is looking at one function or performing one function, some other functions also come into being, in the sense that as you perform one function, the next thing is following. You are training, and after training, these people ought to be put to task, and you ought to supervise the tasks that they are performing. And you do all these to ensure that the company or the school attains its works towards the attainment of its set goals and objectives. When we're talking about the multi-dimensional nature of management, we mentioned that there is a need to look at the needs of the individual workers. So also do you have to care for the group of people who are within that institution or in that organization. One of the features that we can mention here is that management is a group activity. Management is a group activity. This is because management always refers to a group of people involved in managerial activities. Group of people involved in managerial activities. So the management function can't be performed in isolation. Each individual performs his or her role at his or her status and department. And then only management function can be executed. So if you are, let's say, in a particular school, yes, the head is identified as one person who is administering, managing the school. You might think that yours is to go to the classroom to teach. But believe you me, you don't just get to the school compound and straight to your classroom to teach. You do a whole lot of things, whole lot of preparations before getting onto the task of teaching. So all the people within that school are part of the management team of that school, only that it is led by the head. So the result of management affects every individual and every department of the school, or if it's an organization, of that particular organization. So management always refers to a group of people. It is a group effort and not the individual effort of one person. We have our leader. We may call him the school head. We may call him the manager, the CEO of the place. But he doesn't do it all. If there are departmentations, every person in their department or every group in their department, they work towards attaining a particular predetermined goal. Everybody is contributing to the management of that particular institution. So if you are in the classroom and you are teaching P1 to say that, well, my class is P1 and that is all that I teach. No, that is not the only thing you are doing. It's not the teaching that you are doing. You are part of those who are managing that particular school that has the class 1 or the P1 that you are teaching. You are part of it. And this takes us to the fact that, yes, management is not something that is very static. Management has to make changes in goals. We are saying that you are part of management when we are talking of management being a group activity. You are part of it. There are set goals for you to attain. And it is not a thing of saying that this is our goal and you keep to the goal for years on ending. The goal is like this and therefore you stick to it all the time. But you know very well that times do change. So why do you keep to a particular set goal? Management ought to make changes in goals. They ought to make changes in objectives and other activities according to changes taking place within the environment. I think recently computer usage has come into our system. Whichever village you go, you see a computer. So shall we say that because we have been using pen and paper, or pen and book to write our lesson plans, and now that computer is in vogue, you will have to still stick to using pen and teacher's notebook to write our lesson plans? Whereas we can easily get into the computer, type, search it so well, print it out, put it in a file, and arrange the file in such a manner that whatever materials are in will represent what we are to teach every day within the week. And it continues like that for the whole term. For us to pick a file to say that this is my first term lesson plan in my file, we have to make changes. So management ought to respond to changes taking place within the environment. The external environment, for instance, our social, economic, technical, and political environments has great influence over the management of our schools, over the management of our institutions, over the management of our organizations. And as changes take place in these environments, the same is implemented in the organization to ensure that the school survives in a competition with other schools within that environment or even within the world. So we can all move and be abreast with time. And management ought to take lead in some of these things. We don't have to stick to our status quo at all times. If you are managing a school, we make sure that we inject some innovative ideas, innovative activities to ensure that we attain our goals and attain them in a very effective and efficient manner. So we do say that management is a dynamic function. If you are always at the same point or marking time at a place to say that this is how it is done, so I'll continue to do it, then of course you might not be managing the place as required. Be dynamic as a manager. And one interesting thing is that in a school situation, if things are going on so good, so well, people might not even realize it. It will have to move till the time that maybe the students will go to write their end of year exams or end of school exams, maybe the BEC or the WASI or whatever. Before people, oh, so this school was so good, they scored 100%. That's when they are going to realize it. But when something goes wrong within the tick of a second, everybody within the community will hear of it. And people will start criticizing. As for this school, the head is not handling it so well. The teachers are not so good. They will just let you know that they know every aspect of the school. This is because management that function management cannot be physically seen, but its presence can be felt. This is because management is intangible. You cannot see it. The presence of management can be felt by seeing the orderliness and coordination in the working environment. The way things are properly handled, the way things are properly structured in that school will enable you to assess the management of that particular school. And as I said, it is easier to feel the presence of mismanagement as it leads to chaos and confusion in a particular school or in a particular organization. You easily can feel the presence of it, mismanagement. So we do say that management is intangible. We can only identify a properly managed school by their end of season or end of year results and appreciate the efforts of the particular school. That shouldn't be the end. The way that we identify how things are properly arranged in that school, there is that kind of order. You go to the school, maybe if they have a timetable to follow, from 8 to 9 o'clock is a subject A. Just after 9 or some minutes to 9, the bell is rung and the next lesson goes on. It is time for break. You see the students coming out for break. Just after the break, students are back into their classroom, and learning continues. These you can identify to judge how best the school is being managed. But at the same time, when you are observing the school from a point and there is mismanagement, it quickly shows up because of the confusion and the chaotic situation that might be created. So we do say that management is intangible, and that is one of the features of management. It's about 7:30 now, and I think my studio manager will allow me to add some few minutes to it. Thank you, studio manager. Right. So as we travel through the features, we realize that management consists of a series of functions which must be performed in a proper sequence, in a proper order, in a logical manner. And these functions are not independent of each other. If they are not independent of each other, then what are they? The functions of management are interdependent. Function A depends on function B. Function B depends on function C, and A depends on C, and all that follows. So as the main functions of management, as you were informed by the acronym POSCOP, and then you can just mention them, where the P is planning, and it follows like that. So the main functions of management, as we can think about, is planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling, and yes, people will add budgeting to it, fine. But organizing, if you look at the functions, organizing cannot be done without planning. What are you going to organize when you have not planned anything? It can't be possible. In similar manner, the directing function cannot be executed without staffing, because it's the human resource that you are going to direct And if you don't have your staff, how do you play the directing function? And equally so, planning. If all these are not done, in your planning you didn't include anything like getting people to do the work. There's no staff. So what are you going to direct? What are you going to control? So it is very difficult to control the activities of employees or of the workers without knowing your plan. You must have your plan, and all the other functions will have to follow, so that depending on each other, you'll be able to reach your set goal. So all the functions are interdependent, as I've said. That is why management is considered a composite process of all the functions of management. So we have management as a composite process as one of the features of management. Management is a composite process because the functions of management, the post-corp, as you have identified, each function depends on the other. They interdepend on each other for the success of work in a particular organization. We're doing all these in the sense that we want to ensure that the resources at our disposal are used in a very effective and efficient manner, so to attain our predetermined goals or to get our tasks accomplished. And for that matter, we cannot let go these two keywords, effectiveness and efficiency. So if you look at management, if management is ensuring that things are properly done for us to attain our goals, then of course, effectiveness and efficiency counts. So as one of the features of management, we talk of the situation where management ought to balance effectiveness and efficiency. There ought to be a balance, because many a times you want to be very efficient, and in doing so you fail on the other side of it. You can't be effective. You want to be effective and you can't be efficient, and vice versa. So management is about balancing efficiency and effectiveness. Effectiveness in this situation means achieving targets and objectives on time. Achieving targets and objectives on time. And efficiency is referring to the optimum or best use of resources. Efficiency refers to the optimum or best utilization of resources. And management always try to balance both efficiency and effectiveness and get the work done in a very successful manner. You can think of a situation where efficiency and effectiveness can come in our school situation. But all in all, we will say that looking at only effectiveness and looking at only efficiency, they are not enough for an organization. They are not enough for the school. And a balance must be created in both. So you balance management, you look at management, or you being the manager or the head of the school, you make sure that you balance effectiveness with efficiency. So with the studio clock reading about 7:40 there around, I want to pause a bit, but to mention the various aspects that we have talked about as being the features of management. We started by saying that management is a goal-oriented process, that we set goals as we manage, and of course we have to work towards the attainment of that goal. Management is pervasive. It is everywhere within the school or within the organization. Thirdly, we say that management is multidimensional, or some people prefer to say multi-dimensional. Yes. That's, you ought to look at the management of work, the management of people, and the management of operations. And that all these aspects, the functions of management, is a continuous process. And related to some of the other things, realize that they interdepend on each other. And of course, as it is, management is a group activity. In like manner, management is dynamic. If you want to attain efficiency and effectiveness, you make sure that you adjust your goals from time to time. And management is dynamic, and management is intangible, that we cannot touch, but we can feel it. And management is a composite process. One aspect depends on the other, and we ought to balance effectiveness with efficiency. So, my dear students, that is where we want to draw the curtain down on this presentation, but courtesy of the studio manager, you have some time to listen to your views concerning the features of management. And if you have any questions, we listen to it and we all talk about it. Thank you very much for your audience. The studio lines, once again, the number that you can call, send your WhatsApp, is 050 392 3158. 050 392 3158. So that is Radio WINNEBA 98.3 FM. We're waiting for your calls at the studio. The studio line once again is 050 392 3158. You can send your WhatsApp through the same line. You can send your SMS through the same line.
This is Radio WINNEBA, WINNEBA 98.3 FM. is Radio Windy Bay. Windy Bay, 98.3 FM.
Right. The studio lines activated at the moment, so you can send your message, you can send your WhatsApp, SMS, or you can call 050-392-3158. We have Christian Awudi Kunadu, and Awudi Kunadu is applauding us for this early morning lecture. Kunadu, we thank you for thanking us. We also have Ampofu Jr. from the Political Science Department. Mr. Ampofu Jr. is asking the question, and all he's asking is that we have all these things going on. He's talking of maybe management of the schools. But his question is, why is it that the private schools are performing better than our public schools? That is a simple question asked by our brother and friend Ampofu Jr. Well, Ampofu Jr., I think the whole thing boils down to the issue of management, since we are talking about management. Yes. The private school, as you might see it, is just a small body, and for that matter is able to handle everything about itself. Fact is that the private school might have maybe a board that ensures that things run the way schools might run. So they ensure that they supervise whatever is happening within the school system. And in this situation also, parents are brought on board, and each parent is very responsible, and they attend to the demands of the school, ensuring that their wards or their children are taught so well, and for that matter, the students also learn better. They provide all the needed materials that the school demand of them. So what do we expect again? This notwithstanding, our public schools also are properly managed. Right, they are managed. But I may not be able to sit here to say that maybe it's because of the large number. We can't talk about that. Well, we are also doing our best to ensure that we are able to compete with the private schools, because we have all the qualified teachers and we have the resources, which though might not be very satisfactory, but wherever we are, we do say that resources are scarce. So we are finding ways of making sure that we utilize our scarce resources in a very effective and efficient manner. Right, thank you so much, Sir Ampofu Jr. Right, so far we have only Christian Awudi Kunadu and Ampofu who have sent us messages. You still can call or send us your WhatsApp message. The studio line is 050-392-3158. You can also get us live on Facebook at Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. And for live streaming, you can do that through www.uew.edu.gh. You can visit all these platforms to access the lecture.
Windy Bay 98.3 FM. On frequency 98.3 FM.
Right, we have an SMS message from Ms. Dansu Patience Opokua from the History Department. Patience is asking, if a manager fails in course of managing an institution or an organization, is there any sanctions for him? And she's asking, would the sanction be for him alone or for all members within the organization? Right, Patience, thank you very much. I think I got your question right. Is there sanctions for the manager alone or for all members? Thank you. We do say that in every organization, just like every school, every institution, it has a leader. In our case of the school, we call the leader the head teacher or the headmaster. And if things are not properly managed, it is the head of the school who is held responsible, not the members within the school or the organization. Because the members, yes, they have put every trust in the leader. They have every confidence in that leader that he or she will be able to lead that institution. So when it comes to the point that he's not able to manage his or her affairs so well, and the school fails, it is the head who has failed. So if there are any sanctions, it will have to go against the head and not the ordinary member. Right, the studio lines 05003 050-392-3158. I have a message here from the person didn't indicate the name. But I said, good morning, sir. Please, can you highlight on management as multi-dimensional, please? Right. We shall do that, but I have to take permission from the manager. Right. There are some few messages here, and I have to access them from Radio Windy. Please, can you explain? Oh, I think the same message is here. Can you explain a multi-dimensional again? I'm not clear with what feature. With that feature, that's from Pascal, also of Peace Science. So Peace Science and History, they are asking for further explanation of management being a multi-dimensional activity. Right. Thank you, sir. I am Zion Tay from Peace Science. Want to know if, in case, in school management system, while each and every director have been given a task in a different way, how would one depend on each other as much as management is interdependent is concerned? That's Zion T. I think I'll have to go through your reading again, and I'm seeking the assistance of my studio members to get it properly done for us. I'll come back to you. I want to ask about the intangible aspects, the activities of the manager in the organization or the school are noticed by the community or the people because they see its goals are achieved. Well, I take that again. I want to ask about the intangible aspects, the activities of the manager in the organization, or I'm being so Mr. Is it Nate Doku? What do you have on yours? Well, somebody was asking of the intangible nature of the management aspect. Right, we said that management is intangible. All we're saying is that management cannot be seen physically. Cannot be seen physically. But its presence is felt. We can feel the presence of mismanagement so easily if a school is not properly managed. Right. We're still at the studio. We have some 3 minutes left, and you can call 050-392-3158. You still can send your WhatsApp messages and SMS. Right. I was on the issue of the intangible nature of management. All we're saying is that management cannot be seen physically, nor we touch it as it is. But its presence is what we say that can be felt. And the presence of management, Mr. Tayi and my other friend from P Science, Nati, all right, right. So the presence of management can be felt by the orderliness, the way things are properly arranged, the logical nature of happenings in the school and the coordination in the working environment. These, we can feel it. Even though we can't touch it, we can feel it. And we went on to say that where there is what we call mismanagement, we easily can feel the presence of it, in the sense that you easily can identify a chaotic situation, a situation where things are not moving so well. You easily can see it. Yes, there is confusion all over. So definitely you will know that things are not properly run in this particular school. And that is very easy looking at that. In the school situation, it might happen that, yes, you see teachers in their classrooms. But the mere fact that the teacher is in the classroom does not mean that that teacher is teaching. Or if he's teaching at all, is he teaching following the curriculum? So do you expect that if that teacher is not satisfied, his or her needs are not catered for by the school, and he's in the classroom doing something, will you call that teaching? And for that matter, that being effective teaching at all? And per that, you expect the students to perform at the end of the school year. That is not possible. So we're saying that, yes, you ought to manage the school properly. And per that, we're saying that management ought to look at how they can manage the work, how they can manage the people, how they can manage operations. And that is where we are saying that management must be multi-dimensional. And my friend Tay said we should look at that again. We are talking of work. The school, a call. All right, we have a call. Let's listen to our caller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I'm Dennis from Mathematics Department.
Yes, then.
Please, are there different types of management? And my second concern is if you are a worker or an employee in an organization, and you realize that there is a particular problem which keeps occurring all the time, as a human resource employee or as an employee of that organization, what role are you supposed to do after you have reported severally about that particular problem?
Right. Thank you very much. My dear friend just called in and was asking, Dennis from Math Department was asking if you have types of management. Right. Management is management everywhere. The types of management that we may have will be the fact that management could be a discipline in a particular school. That somebody will say that I'm studying management. We have that. But when it comes to work in a particular institution or school or company or organization, then management comes under a broader umbrella when it comes to the work to be done in that particular organization. So management is everywhere, as we have said. Maybe we can have management of a school, management of a hospital, management of whatever it is, but it is about the same approaches, the same principles that we apply as regards management in these entities. And if you are a worker at a place and you might have identified an issue, talked about it severally, and is not heeded, it might mean that you are not reporting to the appropriate quarters. If you are reporting to your friends at the same level, how do you want it to be tackled? So at the workplace, we know the status of each and every structure. We have structures in organizations, yes. How do you get your message across? So you follow the channel of communication, and it will actually get to the appropriate quarters. Right. Thank you very much for that. There is, please, can you highlight on management as a multidimensional? I'll highlight on that before I go. Studio manager's permission. Guidance from, confidence from political science, I suppose, level 300. Since management is a group activity or collective effort, why is it that a failure of a manager is not applicable to all members? Right. I think we have answered this in one way or the other, but maybe I have to repeat that. Yes, that manager of that school, that head, is the one who has been put in charge to run the affairs of that particular entity, that particular section, or that particular organization altogether, or that school. And they trusted him, they had all the confidence in him that he could do it. That's why they put him in charge. There might be equally qualified persons, but he is the one who has been appointed to handle that. So if he fails, why go to punish those subordinates under him? He is the one who has failed, and therefore he ought to be kicked out for a better person to come in. Anyway, that is not done out of the blues, but proper investigation or investigations are conducted, and if he is found to be culpable, then of course the situation is addressed accordingly. Right, we were another message here. My question is, why not the person who failed to perform the duty? Oh, okay, thank you very much. Why not the person who failed to perform the duty? Yes, my dear friend, the thing is that you have been put in charge of that unit. You have been put in charge of that school. There are rules and regulations to be followed. And as the head, you have your as a head, you have your principles also. So if your subordinate is not doing what is required, you have every power at your disposal to discipline that person. In some situations, you will invite that individual, have a thorough discussion with him as to his behavior or otherwise, and you expect a change from that person. So what we say locally, that he is warned. Yes, so you have warned the person. If you realize that he is not changing, he has been that kind of recalcitrant worker, then you are to move to the next level of superiority. There too, the appropriate sanctions will be given. Either he is moved from that level or from that position, or dismissed outright. But when you just keep a blind eye to that, then it means that you are in support of whatever is going on. So when you supervise work that is not worth looking at, and you give a nod, all because you don't want that person to be punished, and for that matter, his work fails, and for that unit to fail, or that school to fail, who is to be blamed? It is you, the head, because you have all tools at your disposal, which you should have used to address that unwelcoming situation, but you didn't bother to look at that. So of course, you go alone. Right. Thank you very much. The multidimensional nature, we were trying to, studio manager, just some few minutes, we were trying to look at management, where we're saying that, yes, you are managing material and human resources. And with that, management will have to look at the work to be done. Management will have to look at who is to do the work. That is the people within the workplace. And management will have to look at operations. That is about the house, how the work is to be done, who is to do the work, and what is the work to be done. Right. I think if you have any further questions when we come to the lecture halls, you will discuss that with us, because my time is consumed. But for a brief summary, we're saying that when we talk of the nature or the features of management, we have it that management is a goal-oriented process. 2, management is pervasive. 3, management is multidimensional. 4, management is a continuous process. 5, management is a group activity. 6, management is a dynamic function. And it follows that management is intangible. Management is a composite process. And last but not least, in managing an institution, you ensure that you crave a balance between effectiveness and efficiency. At FES, you can locate us at FES 119 through to 123. FES room 119, 120, 121, 122, 123. That is where the block is housing the Department for Educational Foundations. Else, you can also meet us at the various lecture halls where we can have a thorough discussion of your issues as regards trends in education and school management in Ghana. Thank you very much for your audience. See you next week.
Okay, so welcome back.